Here we go, Mr. Fantastic checking back with everybody. This particular story occurred with myself. I was in high school. This was my freshman year of high school. Crazy story, crazy football story. It involved myself and another teammate. Just want to share and explain this experience. This is not a story that you should gloat about or want to talk about in a sense where you feel empowered or that there's humor to it. I believe this was a bizarre freak accident, but luckily everybody involved was okay. Luckily everybody came out of it okay, even though initially there was quite a big scare. Crazy sequence of events that eventually I had to deal with after it happened, and I'm gonna tell the whole story to everyone, so hope you enjoy. And here's the story. This particular situation occurred my freshman year of high school. When I was playing in high school, I was a quarterback. So first of all, let me explain the team situation. Let me explain the coaching situation. This was JV football at a private school. You know what I mean? A lot of coaches on the staff were ex-players from the high school. A lot of these guys didn't have much coaching experience. The varsity team, the varsity squad was a really successful squad. Very successful coaches along the staff on varsity. So the best JV coaches obviously were brought up and did majority of their coaching and work on practicing with the varsity to continue to keep them playing at a high level. But for the JV, we kind of got some of the leftover scraps from the varsity squad coaching wise. In other words, we didn't have the best coaches. So this particular moment, this particular situation that happened, this was about week 2 of the season, if I can remember correctly. It was a hot September day. This was a Wednesday practice going into the week. I can remember I was always used to doing hitting drills because I played multiple positions growing up in youth football, but being the quarterback, and again, the coaches we had, not really knowing what they were doing, they would throw the quarterbacks in there too when it came to all the drills. For some reason, I just remember we didn't practice too many actual plays or any game plan or any situations in which we needed to prepare for the opponents in terms of the scout or the schema which we were going to come up with in the game. We were just doing hitting drills. So that kind of goes to show you what type of coaches we had on that staff that year. We ended up doing an Oklahoma drill, and for those that don't know the Oklahoma drill, it's traditionally speaking, you'll have a runner with the football, a defender that's making a tackle, and then you'll have 2 to 3 guys, offense and defense, that's blocking. Very basic drill, very old school drill that is pretty obsolete now if we're talking about the 2020s. Even when I got later in high school and college, they weren't doing this drill no more. So it's definitely old school hitting drill. Lots of youth teams use it to get the kids used to the pads and tackling and all that. Not really prevalent in high school, but at the end of the day we were doing it. The way my high school did it, they had the offensive player and the defensive player 30 yards apart from each other, and we had to meet 15 yards in the middle. There's no exaggeration, no lie. We were standing very far from each other, but the difference was, compared to a traditional drill or an actual drill that has a purpose and that actually helps, there was no blockers. It was just the runner and the tackler running full speed, supposed to meet in the middle and make contact at the apex, which was again about 15 yards in front of us. So there was full momentum, full speed, no blockers. It was a mess. And the crazy part is that they had a long line of kids. Everyone did this drill. They had the kickers, they had the quarterbacks, they had all of us doing this drill, which was ridiculous. Offensive linemen, basically positions that shouldn't be doing the drill, they threw us in there too. That's the kind of squad we have. It's JV. That's what they do. And I'm not sure, maybe this was a drill where they wanted to see who was tough, which players had guts, this and that, just a whole bunch of BS. This was just a drill to just get someone to the hospital, get injured. And now, when I went up, I wasn't comfortable doing this drill. I wasn't scared, but I was like, you know what? This is not what I'm supposed to be doing, especially as the team starting quarterback. I could get injured, this and that can happen, who knows? The person tackling me could potentially do something wrong, maybe unintentionally injure myself or themselves. It was all bad, but you know what? I had to do the drill. There was no opting out because, like I said, these young coaches are just in here gassing everyone up, just trying to make sure everyone does the drill. And if someone wanted to back out, nobody did. But if someone wanted to opt out or say anything like that, then they'd be ridiculed say that they're soft, this and that, whatever. So I go up, and whenever I do some sort of hitting drill, I tend to lower the pads and get low, and I lower down on the right side because I'm right-handed dominant. So I use my right shoulder initially trying to run through. So this particular opponent I was going up against was our starting middle linebacker. I'm not going to reveal his full name, but we're just going to call him Colin. Now, Colin was a very, very tough, good football player. He was one of our best defensive players. It was completely stupid to have the starting quarterback and our best linebacker, our best defensive player in this dumb drill the coaches had us doing. Didn't matter. We were going up. We were going heads up. I knew Colin was a good hitter. I knew that he was a real tough kid. Great kid, real nice kid, real smart. But he was a tough kid. When we put the pads on, he turned into a different person. He was a real tough cat. So we're going up. I'm ready. I'm standing there. I'm looking at Colin. I'm like, all right, man, let's do this. We'll see what happens. Coach blows the whistle. I run up. I'm sprinting, and this is a stupid drill, just trying to get people injured. We are going 100% heads up, sprinting, and just a car collision in the moment of impact, and we make a tackle, and then boom, the next two go up. We're sprinting. I come down. I lower my pads. I try to keep my eyes open as best as I can. Colin's coming full speed. We go hit, boom, and it was a loud sound. When I say that it was loud while I'm the person in the middle of the collision and impact, that's how you know it was a real loud hit. I run him over, and I essentially stay on my feet, but we kind of it was almost a stalemate. Like, we just kind of hit each other. I didn't fall. We ended up stopping each other right on the moment of impact. Really hard to explain, but basically he went down on his knees and bent backwards, and I kind of stayed up. Essentially didn't get a chance to run through each other because we met at the same amount of impact and force, to the point where everything equaled out, and it was almost a tie. But I lowered my helmet, and this was a straight helmet to helmet hit, and we had so much force running into each other that Colin's face mask was dug inside of my shoulder pad. I saw stars for the first time. We hit, bam, and I saw stars for the first time. It was strange. The world of my vision got dark, and it was a sunny day outside. My vision got dark, and I started to see some little blue and purple little dots going around, as if you're standing up from a blood rush to your head. If you hasn't stood up in a while, you've been sitting for a long time, you stand up real quick. It kind of had that kind of loose, faint feeling, but I was fine. That was the first time that happened, so that was a very strange experience, but nonetheless I was okay, thankfully. Despite it being a helmet to helmet hit, it could have ended up a lot worse. And then I tried to move. Like, we hit each other, it kind of wobbled, and then I tried to move and get away. I was like, all right, I'm going to go to the sideline. And Colin's face, he was like, wait. He told me, and I was like, what's going on? Like, why is he still trying to tackle me? The drill's over. He was like, wait. I noticed his face mask was stuck on my shoulder pad, on the top of my shoulder pad, connected to my face mask. Like, his face and his head was stuck, and his neck was bent back. And I was like, oh crap. So I had to stop walking for a second, and the coaches had to run over, unbuckle Colin's helmet, and he had to take his helmet off, and he ended up being helped off by the coaches, and that was that. He was out of the drill. And this particular story was very strange, because Colin seemed okay. Like, he seemed like he was good. He was dazed. He had a concussion after the fact, I figured out. Initially, I didn't know what happened. I thought it was a big hit. Got his helmet stuck. That was that. Everything else was okay. So you fast forward to the next day, Colin's not at practice. And I was like, oh, dang. Like, I wonder what happened. Maybe was it from an injury, or was it from something that happened during school? Because I didn't have him in any of my classes, so I wasn't sure where he was during the day. I didn't see him. I'd usually just see him at practice, and he wasn't at practice the next day. So I was like, oh wow, okay, he's not here. But the interesting thing was, during school, the next couple days after Colin didn't show up for the practice, everyone was coming up to me saying, "Oh dang, this is the killer right here. This is the murderer right here." I'm like, why is everyone calling me that? Like, I didn't have no nicknames. I didn't know what was going on. They're like, "Whoa, I'm not gonna go up against you no more. You're taking people out." And I'm like, what's going on? Why is everyone coming up to me talking about I'm some sort of bully or I'm some sort of undertaker or something? Come to find out, Colin couldn't be at school. He couldn't be sitting in class due to some head or neck injury symptoms, some concussion symptoms most likely, and he couldn't be at school. So he was admitted to the hospital the next day after that initial hit. Come to find out, he needed to get x-rays or MRI or something along those lines. Turns out he ended up having a fracture on his cervical region of his spine. With the cervical region, that's the neck. So essentially his neck was broken. Very, very scary. Very surprised when the news came. Obviously the news came a few days after the hit, probably the next week if I can remember correctly. When I first heard that, I was like, wow, like that wasn't because of some sort of fall or some sort of injury outdoors or anything like that. That was from me hitting him. That was from me essentially running through him, running over him in the football drill. So I was like, wow, in my head back then when I was thinking, I was like, man, I broke my teammate's neck. That was crazy. I was just like, man, I ain't supposed to be doing this. That's crazy talk. I'm not sure exactly where the break was in his neck. I'm assuming that it was lower, so the C4, C5. Thankfully and luckily, it wasn't anywhere higher on the atlas or the axis portion of the neck, the C1 and the C2. Very, very sensitive region, very dangerous part of the neck when it comes to potential injuries. Colin's injury was lower down on his neck, and it was something where it wasn't life-threatening. It wasn't threatening to his rest of his nerves in his body. He ended up being in a neck brace, and it was so strange seeing that. You know, it was like when he responds to people, "Oh, what happened to your neck, man?" His response was like, "Man, our quarterback busted me up, broke my neck." So I'm not sure what his answer was, but Colin was a really, really good kid. He was very, very accepting of my apology, because when I saw him for the first time, I was like, "What? Oh my goodness, man! I am so sorry." I kept apologizing over and over again. He's like, "No, it's okay. You know, it's football, it's a sport." Was a real good saint about what happened and everything. No hard feelings. He really took the injury well. I didn't know the extent of the injury. I wasn't the closest with him, so I never had conversations where I followed up with him and asked him what were the details exactly on what happened. But basically, he ended up not playing the next few games after that incident. He ended up not playing the rest of the season. I remember because one of his locker had his helmet in it, and it was never touched ever since that injury happened, ever since that incident happened. His stuff was in the locker the whole year, and just word kind of boiled over, and he just didn't return for the rest of the season. Him and the coaches kind of came to a conclusion that, he didn't want to play, and I'm sure that was his decision. It might have been something that the doctors might have recommended due to his neck injury, or it could have been a preventive issue, which I totally understand, but it's very, very difficult to accept that. And for me to be the culprit of said injury, in a sense, made me feel really, really bad. But it also gave me perspective on how dangerous the sport was, and honestly got me thinking I'm very, very fortunate to come out of that collision safely as much as I did, because I carried on and went through the same practice the rest of the day, while Colin essentially had his whole football career ended right off that hit. Right after he walked off that field, that was the last time he had those pairs of cleats on with the helmet and shoulder pads. Very, very crazy, bizarre way to go out. Very, very crazy situation that I was a part of it, that I was the cause of it. But hey, there's these experiences in life. You're never really sure what exactly could happen. But when you look back in retrospect, it's a kind of a gnarly story to tell and gnarly story to have in your back pocket, especially since I was involved in it this much. When I think about it, the more I think about it, I'm like, man, we don't know how good of a football player Colin could have been. He could have been a monster his last few years of high school. This was freshman year, so we were just getting ready to start football and everything. This freak accident happened, broke his neck, you know what I mean? We didn't know what he could have been
after, because at the beginning of the year, preseason, this man was making all sorts of plays. He was by far best defensive player. I was real excited to have him on the team because he'd be a huge help to the success of our football team, but ended up getting injured, never played football again. Man, so everything's unknown. But the best part about the story is that I know that he's doing very well in his life. Had a real good parents, a really smart guy. Colin was by far the smartest kid in our class. I know he did much better things being off of the football field. And again, at the end of the day, it's just a sport. You got to really take care of your body. You got to really make sure you stay out of harm's way the best you can, because this is a very dangerous sport. Crazy story. Wanted to share that with everybody, hoping that I can give some perspective on the game we love and how scary it could be, because you hear all these bizarre, crazy stories when it comes to football injuries, and I happen to be a part of a crazy one. I actually caused one, so it kind of hits me in a different angle, and it gets me thinking a little bit more on the serious side and for the future. And I just want to let everyone know that it's a very dangerous sport. Got to be careful. Keep your head up. Don't lead with the head. Don't lead with the crown. They tell that for a reason. It could save your life and it could save your career. Stay safe. Make sure you like the video, subscribe, turn on post notifications. You know the drill. Mr. Fantastic out of here.